When you hear the phrase, Piers Morgan challenges Stephen Meyer, you instantly know you're about to witness more than just a polite exchange of ideas. You're preparing for a direct confrontation, one of those tense, electrifying moments where two powerful personalities collide, and the stakes feel higher than the words being spoken. That's what makes this title so compelling. It sets the stage for a showdown that isn't just intellectual but deeply personal. The question at hand, can science prove God, isn't just another debate topic. It's one of the oldest, rawest, and most polarizing questions in human history. By framing it as a challenge, the title promises viewers they're not just going to hear arguments, but they're going to see sparks fly. Piers Morgan thrives in confrontation. He doesn't sit back and let the guest talk, he interrupts, pushes, prods, and exposes. Viewers expect him to be the voice of skepticism, the one who says what many are thinking but might be afraid to ask. On the other side, Stephen Meyer isn't just any guest. He's a man who has spent years arguing for intelligent design, someone who believes science itself points toward a creator. The tension is baked into the matchup. One represents the sharp, cynical voice of modern media, the other represents the patient, intellectual defense of faith in the language of science. Put them together, and you're guaranteed fireworks. The phrase, direct confrontation, is crucial because it signals there will be no hiding behind pleasantries. This isn't going to be an interview where both sides smile politely and agree to disagree. Instead, it sets up the expectation that Piers Morgan will press Stephen Meyer on the hardest, most uncomfortable questions. If God exists, where is the evidence? If science is meant to deal with what we can measure, test, and repeat, how can it possibly prove something as transcendent and intangible as God? By raising these challenges, Piers embodies the skepticism of millions of viewers who demand proof before belief. But Stephen Meyer doesn't walk into such debates unarmed. His entire career has been about reframing the narrative. Not that science replaces faith, but that science actually points to faith. He draws from physics, biology, cosmology, the fine-tuning of the universe, the complexity of DNA, the improbability of life arising from chance. When Meyer speaks, he does so with the confidence of a man who has rehearsed these answers 1,000 times, turning doubt into an opening for persuasion. That's why the word challenge is so sharp here. It doesn't just mean Morgan is going to push Meyer, it also means Meyer gets to rise to the occasion and defend his stance under pressure. For viewers, this creates an irresistible hook. People don't tune in just for information, they tune in for conflict, for the drama of seeing who will come out on top. Will Meyer be able to hold his ground and convince skeptics that science can, in fact, point to God? Or will Piers Morgan's relentless questioning expose cracks in the argument, leaving viewers unconvinced? That uncertainty is the fuel that keeps audiences watching. The title ensures that viewers understand they're not just entering a debate, they're stepping into a battlefield of ideas where every word counts. What makes it even more engaging is how the subject matter hits both the mind and the heart. The question of God's existence isn't abstract, it's personal. People bring their own beliefs, doubts, and emotions into the conversation. By positioning it as a confrontation, the title promises that these emotions will surface. Viewers who believe in God want to see Meyer stand tall and defend their faith with reason. Viewers who doubt want to see Morgan dismantle what they see as flawed logic. Either way, everyone has skin in the game. That's what drives retention. It's not just two men debating, it's a proxy war for the beliefs of millions. The confrontation also highlights the cultural moment we live in. In an age where science is often elevated above religion, the question, can science prove God, feels both provocative and timely. It's not just about whether God exists but whether modern science, the ultimate authority in many people's eyes, can be used to support faith rather than undermine it. Piers Morgan, representing the modern, secular, media-driven world, and Stephen Meyer, representing the intellectual defense of belief, become stand-ins for this broader clash of worldviews. That symbolism makes the debate larger than just two people, it becomes a reflection of society's deepest tensions. For YouTube audiences, this dynamic works perfectly. Watch time thrives on conflict, curiosity, and the promise of resolution. A direct confrontation promises viewers that there will be no easy answers, only hard-hitting questions and bold attempts at response. It keeps people leaning forward, waiting to see who stumbles, who outsmarts the other, and who ultimately makes the more compelling case. And because the topic is so universal, the potential audience is massive. Believers, skeptics, scientists, students, philosophers, everyone has a reason to click, watch, and keep watching. At its core, the phrase, direct confrontation, tells the audience something simple: this isn't going to be a polite chat. It's going to be a fight for ideas, and those fights are always the most memorable. When Piers Morgan steps into the role of the challenger and Stephen Meyer into the role of defender, the viewer gets exactly what they came for, an intellectual duel that is as much about passion and conviction as it is about logic and evidence. That's why this title works so well, and that's why viewers won't just click on it, they'll stay until the very last word. The moment you hear the question, "Can science prove God?" you're drawn in, because it strikes at the heart of something bigger than just science or religion. It taps into the deepest human curiosity. It's a question that has fueled centuries of debate, inspired countless books, sermons, and lectures, and still remains unresolved in the minds of millions. What makes this such a powerful hook is that it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, everyone has an opinion about it, or at the very least, a curiosity that refuses to stay silent. The title doesn't just ask a question, it dares you to confront your own beliefs while watching two strong personalities battle over the answer. Big questions like this work because they feel personal. They go beyond the intellectual and press against something every human being wrestles with, the meaning of existence. Science gives us explanations for how things work, the laws of motion, the formation of stars, the complexity of DNA, but does it explain why? Does it explain the ultimate cause, the force behind the laws themselves? That gap between how and why is what keeps people glued to debates like this. A simple yes or no won't satisfy. People want to see how the question is unpacked, how each side defends their position, and whether anyone can really offer an answer that resonates. The beauty of this hook is that it appeals equally to believers and skeptics. If you believe in God, you want to see if someone like Stephen Meyer can put into words what you've always felt, that the universe is too finely tuned, too ordered, too purposeful to be an accident. You want to see if he can bring science into the conversation as an ally rather than an enemy. On the other side, if you're skeptical or atheist, you're intrigued to see whether someone can actually pull it off. You want to see if Piers Morgan, the challenger, can expose holes in Meyer's reasoning, showing that faith and science should never be confused. That tension is what keeps people watching. Both sides have expectations, and both sides are eager to see who wins. This is why the phrasing, "Can science prove God?" is so powerful. It doesn't soften the claim, it doesn't say, "Can science suggest God?" or "Can science hint at God?" It uses the strongest possible word, prove. Proof is what people crave in a world where everything is questioned. Proof is what separates fact from opinion, certainty from doubt. By setting the bar so high, the question becomes nearly irresistible. Viewers are drawn in to see whether such proof can even exist, or whether the whole idea collapses under scrutiny. When Piers Morgan asks a question like this, it immediately changes the dynamic. He isn't just asking on his own behalf, he's asking on behalf of millions of viewers who want answers. He becomes the voice of doubt, skepticism, and relentless curiosity. He forces Stephen Meyer to rise to the challenge, to back up his claims with evidence, logic, and clarity. This tug-of-war between interviewer and guest creates suspense. Every time Meyer makes a point, viewers wait to see how Piers will respond. Every time Piers fires back, viewers wait to see if Meyer can hold his ground. That back-and-forth rhythm builds momentum and keeps audiences locked in. Another reason this big question works so well as a hook is that it sits right at the intersection of science, philosophy, and faith. Each of those realms draws its own audience, and when they collide, the conversation becomes bigger than any single discipline. Scientists want to see if their field is being used accurately or misrepresented. Philosophers are drawn to the logic, the reasoning, the way evidence is interpreted. People of faith are deeply invested in whether the existence of God can be defended in the language of modern science. That mix of audiences creates a broad net, anyone who clicks is going to find something they care about, and that ensures watch time stays high. There's also an emotional element that makes this question so gripping. When you ask, "Can science prove God?" you're not just asking about abstract theories. You're really asking, is there meaning in the universe? Are we here for a reason? Or are we just an accident of physics and chance? Those are questions that strike at identity, purpose, and destiny. That's why viewers don't just watch with their minds, they watch with their hearts. They want reassurance, or they want affirmation, or they want a reason to doubt more confidently. The emotional pull of the question makes the debate much more than an exchange of words, it becomes a personal journey for the audience. From a YouTube perspective, this hook is golden. People don't want easy, one-dimensional topics. They want questions that feel urgent, timeless, and impossible to ignore. This is exactly that. It teases a mystery without promising a clean resolution, which means viewers will stick around to see how far the conversation goes. Even if they know the question won't be fully answered, the process of watching two powerful figures wrestle with it is satisfying in itself. That's what drives engagement, comments, shares, and heated discussions long after the video ends. Ultimately, the brilliance of this big question hook is that it leaves no one neutral. Everyone comes into the video with a stake, whether they want to see science prove God, fail to prove God, or expose the whole premise as flawed. That investment makes the audience part of the confrontation. They're not just spectators, they're participants, silently weighing every point, aligning themselves with one side or the other. And that's why they watch to the end. The question demands attention, the clash delivers drama, and the unresolved nature of it ensures it lingers in the mind long after the screen goes dark. When you put names like Piers Morgan and Stephen Meyer side by side, you immediately create an atmosphere of anticipation. These aren't anonymous academics hidden in dusty libraries or faceless commentators debating in obscure corners of the internet. These are high-profile figures, each carrying weight, reputation, and recognition that amplify the impact of the question at hand. That's why the moment viewers see the title with both names, they know this isn't just another casual chat, it's an event worth watching, a collision of two heavyweights with very different approaches to truth. Piers Morgan has built his career on being bold, confrontational, and unfiltered. People expect him to ask the questions others avoid, to interrupt, to provoke, and to demand answers without apology. He thrives in tension, and audiences know that when Piers is in the room, there's no way a guest will be allowed to escape without scrutiny. This reputation draws viewers in because they know Piers won't play nice if he feels the argument is weak. Whether you love him or hate him, you watch him because he guarantees conflict, because he embodies the skepticism and bluntness that so many viewers secretly wish they could express themselves. On the other side is Stephen Meyer, not a television firebrand but a thoughtful, measured, and deeply informed voice in the debate over God, science, and intelligent design. He isn't a celebrity in the traditional sense, but within intellectual and religious circles, his name carries serious credibility. Meyer represents the scholar, the patient defender of faith who believes reason and science are not enemies of God but allies pointing toward a creator. His presence signals to believers that their perspective has an articulate champion, someone capable of standing toe-to-toe with the harshest critics. To skeptics, his presence sparks curiosity. Can this man really argue that science, the very tool often used to challenge faith, is actually evidence for God? When these two figures meet, the dynamic itself becomes the spectacle. Piers represents the media-driven, fast-paced, combative voice of skepticism, while Meyer represents the calm, logical, academic defense of faith. The clash of styles makes the debate inherently dramatic. Audiences are hooked not only by the content of the conversation but by the personalities delivering it. Every interruption, every rebuttal, every moment of tension is magnified because of who these men are and what they stand for. This isn't just a discussion of ideas, it's a performance of worldviews, embodied by recognizable, compelling figures. High-profile figures also carry built-in audiences. Piers Morgan brings a massive following, viewers who tune in precisely because they want to see him challenge, provoke, and dominate. Many watch simply to see who he's going to clash with next. Stephen Meyer, on the other hand, attracts a different kind of audience, those who follow his books, his lectures, his debates, and his arguments for intelligent design. When both names appear in the same title, their audiences converge. Suddenly, you don't just have fans of Piers or Meyer tuning in, you have curious outsiders too, people who may not follow either man regularly but are intrigued by the collision of two strong reputations. That's a recipe for watchtime gold. What makes this even more compelling is the imbalance of the playing field. Piers is at home in the media spotlight, comfortable with cameras, controversy, and viral soundbites. Meyer, while confident and eloquent, represents a quieter kind of authority, more used to the lecture hall than the rapid-fire pace of a television debate. That contrast creates tension. Viewers wonder, will Meyer be able to hold his ground in Piers' arena? Or will Piers' aggressive style overpower him? That uncertainty pulls viewers in and keeps them glued to see how the underdog dynamic plays out. Another key factor in the appeal of high-profile figures is that their reputations precede them. Piers Morgan is polarizing, some admire him for his blunt honesty, while others despise him for his arrogance. That polarity ensures that viewers are emotionally invested before the debate even begins. They're not watching neutrally, they're watching with the hope that their side of the equation will win. The same goes for Meyer. To some, he's a courageous defender of faith against the tide of secularism. To others, he's a man trying to sneak theology into science. Both perceptions generate strong feelings, and strong feelings are exactly what keep audiences watching from start to finish. From a storytelling perspective, having two high-profile figures elevates the narrative. Instead of being a dry academic question about science and God, it becomes a face-off between personalities. The ideas matter, but so does the way they're delivered. The pauses, the interruptions, the expressions, all of these become part of the drama, and drama is what sustains attention. Viewers may come for the question, but they stay for the clash of egos, the battle of wit, and the spectacle of two strong voices colliding in real time. The presence of high-profile figures also ensures that the debate won't exist in isolation. Clips will circulate, quotes will be tweeted, and reactions will spread because people know these names. A heated moment between Piers and Meyer will echo far beyond the original video, pulling more people in to watch the full exchange. That ripple effect is only possible because both men carry reputations that spark public interest. At the heart of it, the reason high-profile figures matter so much is trust and expectation. Viewers trust that Piers Morgan will ask the tough questions, whether they agree with him or not. They trust that Stephen Meyer will defend his case with intellectual rigor, whether they accept his conclusion or not. Those expectations set the stage for a gripping watch, because everyone knows these two men won't simply fold. They will clash, and the audience will get to witness every second of it. That's the real genius of bringing high-profile figures together in a debate like this. Their reputations, their contrasting styles, their built-in audiences, and their polarizing identities all combine to create a spectacle that feels larger than life. It's not just a discussion, it's an event. And when viewers see their names on the same title line, they know they're in for more than just words. They're about to witness a battle of personalities, ideas, and worldviews that demands their attention until the very last moment. What makes a debate like Piers Morgan challenges Stephen Meyer, "Can science prove God?" so captivating is that it doesn't belong to one audience, it belongs to everyone. This isn't the kind of topic that only religious people care about, or that only skeptics find interesting. It sits right in the middle of belief and doubt, science and faith, logic and meaning. That universal pull is what gives it cross-audience appeal, and it's why a title like this instantly grabs attention and keeps viewers hooked for the long run. For believers, the draw is obvious. They tune in because they want to see someone like Stephen Meyer defend their convictions with authority and intelligence. They've heard faith mocked or dismissed in mainstream spaces, so when a figure like Meyer takes the stage against someone as combative as Piers Morgan, it feels like their side is finally being represented. Every argument Meyer makes, every point he lands, becomes a small victory for those who see their faith under constant attack. They watch not just for entertainment, but for validation, and that kind of emotional investment guarantees they'll stick around. For skeptics and atheists, the attraction is just as strong, but from the other side. They want to watch Piers Morgan push back, interrupt, and expose what they view as flaws in Meyer's reasoning. They want to see the questions they've always had thrown onto the table and to watch how Meyer handles them. Piers becomes their proxy, the sharp voice of doubt that refuses to let faith sneak in through the back door of science. For this group, watch time comes from anticipation. They're waiting for Piers to corner Meyer, for a slip in logic, for the moment they can point to and say, "That's why faith fails." But the most interesting audience is the one caught in between, the seekers, the undecided, the people who aren't sure where they land on questions of God. This group is massive, and they're the most engaged. Unlike the believers and skeptics, who come in rooting for their side, the undecided come in searching. They're listening carefully to both men, weighing each point, trying to make sense of arguments they may have never heard before. They don't skip ahead, because every exchange could be the one that shifts their perspective. Their curiosity makes them the most valuable viewers, and their hunger for clarity keeps them watching longer than anyone else. The magic of cross-audience appeal is that all three groups, believers, skeptics, and seekers, are in the same room, experiencing the same debate from different angles. That overlap creates tension, not just between Piers and Meyer, but between viewers themselves. When they head to the comments, believers defend Meyer, skeptics side with Piers, and seekers ask questions that keep the conversation alive. This ongoing clash fuels engagement long after the video ends, which is exactly what platforms like YouTube reward. It also helps that the topic crosses boundaries between disciplines. Science enthusiasts watch to see if Meyer handles evidence correctly or if Piers challenges him properly. Philosophers tune in for the logic, the reasoning, and the subtle shifts in definitions. People of faith watch for the spiritual implications. Casual viewers, even those not deeply invested, click out of sheer curiosity, because the question of God is never boring. That overlap of audiences multiplies reach and makes the content feel bigger than just another debate. It feels like a cultural moment. The personalities only amplify that appeal. Piers Morgan, known worldwide for being brash and unfiltered, attracts mainstream audiences who may not normally watch theological or scientific debates. Stephen Meyer, with his intellectual reputation, draws in those who care about faith and science colliding in serious conversation. Together, they bring audiences that might never have crossed paths, giving the video a reach that stretches across belief systems, ideologies, and backgrounds. In the end, that's what makes cross-audience appeal so powerful. It ensures no one is excluded. Believers get their defender, skeptics get their challenger, and the undecided get their chance to explore. Everyone feels like the debate speaks directly to them, and that's why they stay. They don't just watch for the clash of ideas, they watch because the stakes feel personal. And when content feels personal, it doesn't just get clicks, it gets loyalty, it gets watch time, and it gets remembered.